just make heaps of food and it's all just lying around. So speaking from experience, you know, like I understand what it's like to overeat. Give yourself some time to then ask yourself, do you really need more food? Do you need another plate full? Or perhaps you just want a bite of, you know, a few things that you really did enjoy, and then that is you done for the night. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel CZ.fit here, and I hope you guys are all doing well. In today's video we will be discussing Thanksgiving, and essentially I'll be giving you my top 5 tips on how you can approach Thanksgiving dinner in terms of food, and just removing that anxiety around food and being really mindful this time round. So Thanksgiving is obviously a time where you will be, you know, spending time with your close friends and your family, creating memories, and the last thing you want to be doing is feeling anxious around the turkey that you're going to be having, right? Like, there are much better things to be focusing on during Thanksgiving than the turkey on the dinner table that's giving you freaking anxiety because you're like, holy crap, I don't want to overeat tonight. So let's go over my top 5 tips. So tip number 1 is do not restrict during the day. Just because you're likely to be consuming a lot more calories for dinner is not a reason for you to then restrict completely during the day. Continue to have your regular meals, so your breakfast and your lunch, but just reduce the portion sizes. Fill up on high volume foods such as vegetables, fruits, and make sure you are having a protein source from each meal as well, which is going to keep you feeling a lot fuller during the day. Look, banking a sensible amount of calories is completely fine because obviously logic says, you know, if you are having more food in the evening, then, you know, to space out your calories throughout the day, have a little less during the day. But it does not mean to restrict and completely starve yourself, because if you are going into the day being like, I'm going to, you know, really pull back on my calories, and you're starving during the day, you are mentally preparing yourself to overeat at night, because what other reason are you starving during the day, right? And logically, like, if you were to bank all your calories for that one meal, you won't necessarily be feeling too great anyways, because you know, you actually cannot be having all your daily intake in one sitting. It's not going to be making you feel very good. So to set yourself up for success, do not restrict during the day, but rather just pull back a little bit on calories that perhaps you don't necessarily need. For example, the various snacks that you perhaps may have had during the day, which you may not need during that day now, because you know you will have more calories in the evening. My second tip is remove the 0 to 100 approach. So remove that all or nothing mindset. I know it's easier said than done, but look, like, you can still enjoy Thanksgiving dinner, have a dinner off plan, have a meal off plan that's not tracked, that's not on your meal plan, and still be progressing towards your goals. Having a one meal off plan will not ruin your progress, but having a one meal off plan and then letting that meal go on throughout the week is what's going to ruin your progress, right? So one meal is not the end of the world, but what happens to a lot of us is we take that one meal, and because we've gone off track, we end up having, you know, 4 or 5 Thanksgiving dinners. We end up having a whole week off track, and that's what essentially throws us off our momentum and throws us backwards away from our goals. So remove that 0 to 100 approach and just understand that your progress comes from consistency over time. So this means being able to fit in these special occasions, birthdays, Thanksgiving, weddings, all these things, because to be consistent, you need a plan that is sustainable, and for it to be sustainable, it means that you aren't skipping out on these really special occasions that ultimately bring you happiness and create memories that you are going to be able to look back on. Tip number 3 is pace yourself. So once you've had your first serving of food, give yourself 15 to 20 minutes to actually digest and let your body register that you've had your meal, and then ask yourself, are you still hungry? Do you need more food, or are you pretty much quite satisfied? Because typically typically, you know, right after we finish a meal, it does feel like we could eat more, and you know, most of us will just get up, grab some more food, especially when it's like Thanksgiving and all the food's kind of just spread out available for you. It's very easy to just continue standing up, getting more food, and then, you know, maybe like half an hour later you're like, holy crap, I am way too full and I have overeaten. It's so natural for that to happen, because especially when you have all the food lying there, it's so easy for us to graze and not even mentally register that we've had quite a lot of food. So pace yourself, slow down, make sure you are chewing your food as well, and then give yourself some time to then ask yourself, do you really need more food? Do you need another plate full? Or perhaps you just want a bite of, you know, a few things that you really did enjoy, and then that is you done for the night. One thing to, you know, remind yourself is the food there is always going to be there. Like, you can give yourself time. Like, no one's going to go and finish all the food before you can go around and have seconds. So definitely just pace yourself and understand that it is about being mindful and just really understanding how much you do need, and giving your body time to also register the food that you've had. This is also probably going to make you enjoy your food a lot more. Like, if you are rushing and trying to just throw down as much food as you can down your throat, you probably won't even actually be enjoying it very much, or, you know, actually tasting the flavors. So really just pace yourself, make sure you are biting and chewing your food. I know it sounds dumb, but the amount of times that I have like realized that I barely chew my food and I'm just shoving it down me, and then, you know, 2 minutes later you've finished your meal and you haven't even mentally registered that you did have a meal. So definitely slowing down there. Now, tip number 4 is reminding yourself how you want to feel, both mentally and physically. So what I mean by this is, you know, most of us probably have had experiences, multiple experiences, where we have overeaten, and that is completely natural. Again, we are just humans, we are not robots, right? And sometimes it is hard to stick to boundaries or really understand how much we need until it's way too late and we've overeaten. But you can probably agree that on those nights where you have really just overeaten, the next morning your digestion's pretty off, you know, your stomach's not feeling too great. Physically you're a bit like ugh. And mentally you're not feeling great either, because you're like, okay, I lost control with food again, I overate, I really did not listen to my body, right? And you're probably feeling guilt as well. So there's a lot of different things that happen when we do overeat. So next time when you approach, say, Thanksgiving this year, or any other sort of special occasion, or if you are just eating out, really try to remind yourself how you want to feel mentally and physically, because ultimately we want to wake up every day feeling our freaking best, right? So we want to feel physically good in terms of our digestion, in terms of how we're feeling. We want to be able to go ahead and work out and not feel like we're carrying 10 kgs of food in us. But mentally we want to feel refreshed, we want to feel empowered, and we want to feel in control. And what that means is we want to be able to wake up the next morning being like, cool, like I was mindful, I was fully in control of food, like I knew where my boundaries were. I actually understood that I was full, and I, you know, I restrained myself from having more, because I knew that I was satisfied and my body was full. Mentally I was, you know, in a really good point. So really just always remind yourself how you want to feel the next day, rather than seeking that instant gratification of having another slice of cake, being like, do I really need it, and how will I feel if I, you know, overeat right now? Let me just take a step back and seek, you know, delayed gratification rather than the instant gratification. Because, you know, like all of us are going to want an extra slice of cake, all of us want a, you know, another piece of chocolate, but it really is about how you want to feel afterwards that really counts. And finally, tip number 5 is understanding that you can say no. I know that Thanksgiving is, you know, a occasion where you are surrounded by your friends and your family, and, you know, naturally, especially with families, your grandma or your mom is going to want to continue feeding you. If your family is anything like mine, you will probably relate to the feeling of literally having food forced down you from your mom and your grandma. Like every time I visit home, my grandma is there ready with so much food and she cannot wait to feed me. So you can probably relate to that. And look, like it's completely okay to just politely say like, hey, I'll take a bite, but I don't necessarily need, you know, all the platefuls of food that you're trying to feed me. Like I am actually quite full and I appreciate, you know, all the food you have prepared, and I am going to try everything. But, you know, like once I've tried everything, I don't actually necessarily need, say, like another portion portion. And look, like your parents and your friends will understand if you say so politely, but it is about being comfortable in setting those boundaries for yourself and actually staying accountable to them. And part of that is, you know, learning how to say no. And again, I know it's hard, it's easier said than done, especially when, you know, you are trying to say no to people you really do care about. But again, it is about being able to communicate your own boundaries in a way that is still respectful and still polite. Those are my top 5 tips that I really do hope help you through this Thanksgiving, because look, like Thanksgiving is so important. It's such an important time to just create memories and really be present in the moment. And I know personally through my past experiences as well that sometimes when you are so food focused and you're anxious about the food there, you can't actually be present in the moment. And you know, when you look back, all you can remember is how you felt that day around food. Maybe you overeating, you overcomplicating things, thinking about the macros of the food. And look, like that is not the point of Thanksgiving. That is not the point of any sort of social occasion. Your fitness goals will always be there, and as long as you are mindful about, you know, your eating, you're mindful with how much you are consuming, you are not taking a step back. Like progress is when you can be mindful around foods that you are not tracking, that is not on plan. Like I think ultimately that is what's progress, and that is what I tell all my girls. Like progress is not you being able to stick to your meal plan or being able to track every meal 100%. Like that is not progress. Like if you are not comfortable in, you know, taking a step back from tracking and taking a step away from your meal plan, then, you know, I don't think that is you really actually achieving a lifestyle that you can sustain. So look at Thanksgiving and even Christmas and New Year's and all the upcoming, you know, social occasions that you do have as a really exciting challenge and opportunity to actually practice mindfulness and intuitive eating. Because if you are, say, working towards specific goals, yes, most of the time you are probably tracking your macros and you're being super on point, you're sticking to your meal plan, and it's awesome. Like that is awesome, because obviously if you have a goal, it's so important you have a plan in place and you have some sort of structure, right? But at the same time, it is equally just as important for you to be able to utilize these different special occasions to practice intuitive eating, to practice stepping away from certain guidelines and knowing exactly the macronutrients of your food, the amount you're eating, and just being able to function like a normal human being who isn't, you know, tracking everything, and just eat mindfully, because ultimately that is how you are going to sustain your goals and build a lifestyle and a future that is balanced and that you can really enjoy, because none of us can really say that we want to be having to track every meal just to stay in shape, right? Like that is not the point here. So I do hope that this video was helpful, and let me know which tips you found the most useful, and if you have any other tips of your own that you want to share, drop it down below in the comments. And make sure to give this video a like if you did enjoy this, and subscribe if you are new here. It really does support me and my channel. And other than that, I hope you guys have a lovely rest of your night or day wherever you are in the world, and please do enjoy Thanksgiving, enjoy your turkey, enjoy all the pumpkin pies and all the other good stuff that you're having, probably other foods as well if you're from like other nationalities. I understand that not everyone's having the generic Thanksgiving dinners. To be fair, I've actually never had a Thanksgiving meal. My parents, they don't really understand like special occasions and like holidays. They kind of just make good food all year round, and I feel like every dinner is almost like a Thanksgiving dinner when I'm home, because they just make heaps of food and it's all just lying around. So speaking from experience, you know, like I understand what it's like to overeat. I understand what it's like to just have food sitting there and your family's like, do you want another portion? Like, are you sure you're done? And you're like, yeah, I'm quite full, but if you're going to tempt me, I do want like another 5 slices of cake. So I do understand how hard it is sometimes to have those boundaries and really be accountable to how much food you realistically, you know, need, and then to say no. It is hard, and it is like, you know, a learning experience as well. Like the more occasions that you experience, the more times that you do slip up as well, I think the better you get at actually knowing where your boundaries are and knowing how to kind of find little tricks here and there to stop yourself from just, you know, overeating. And look, like even if you overeat a little this Thanksgiving, don't beat yourself up for it. Like you are a human. It is just about being able to reflect on that and being like, okay, cool, like next time I know that perhaps with Christmas, I will understand where I need to kind of set my boundaries a little bit better. Maybe perhaps that's even with drinking, knowing that, okay, I, went over 1 to 2 drinks and that's when I kind of just felt a bit, So for Christmas, I'm going to make sure that my, boundaries are 1 to 2 drinks instead. So it is just like a learning experience, really. Like, don't be too harsh on yourself. Like, don't seek perfection, because that doesn't exist. But as long as, every special occasion, every Thanksgiving or Christmas every year, you are making progress, you are, being more and more intuitive and mindful, that is what matters. And again, that is something I really do highlight with my girls, because I know that a lot of us are perfectionists out here. Like, if you are a overachiever or a high achiever, or you are ambitious enough to be on a fitness journey, like, I know that most of us want perfection, but most often than not, perfection sets you back instead. So stop seeking perfection. You are human, you're not a robot. Just seek for progress and just try to become that like 1% better every day and every, off-plan meal. And yeah, other than that, I hope that this was helpful, and have a lovely Thanksgiving, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!